include the infants of those households as well, just based on that. There's not a lot of strength in that, and I certainly don't see that. But I guess my question to you would be with regards to the case put by R.C. Sproul and Dr. Gerstner that they believe there's a connection between circumcision and baptism. Mm-hmm. And I can assume that you would disagree with that?
What you need to recognize is just as there is a connection between the Old Covenant sacrifices and the sacrifice of Christ, it does not mean that we allow wholesale connection between those two things. There is continuity and there is discontinuity. From the Presbyterian perspective, there is discontinuity between circumcision and baptism. How so? Well, first of all, circumcision was only given to males, and baptism is given to both. Secondly, it was given at a particular point in time, whereas that same stricture is not applied in this context. And very interestingly, there was no requirement for faith on the part of either one of the parents for circumcision to take place. Yet, for some reason, Presbyterians require faith of at least one of the two parents for baptism to take place, which I find to be great discontinuity. There's another major discontinuity that's relevant to what you just said, and that is, while circumcision would be applied to the whole household, a household in the Old Testament was not just people who were your offspring. It included your servants as well. And so there is a discontinuity as to the very definition of household in the Presbyterian understanding of the fulfillment, as they understand it, of circumcision and baptism. And so there's numerous issues of discontinuity there, and the Baptist simply says that, in reality, the primary fulfillment of circumcision in the Old Covenant is regeneration in the New Covenant, and that has to be given the primary role of fulfilling the meaning of circumcision, the removal of that flesh. That's why we are called the true circumcision, Philippians 3:3. We are the ones who worship God in spirit and in truth. And so there's all sorts of issues that I'll be getting to in looking at Romans 4:11 and Colossians 2 this coming Sunday in the sermons. Don't want to give everything away now or nobody will show up for church. But we also have a caller from Australia online. I want to get to him before he's completely bereft of all money. But there's all sorts of issues along those lines that I think need to be discussed, especially when you look at the widespread use of Romans 4:11 by Calvin in saying that since circumcision for Abraham was the sign of a righteousness that was his by faith before he was circumcised, Calvin simply takes that to mean that that was true for all Jews, and it clearly was not. That misses the fact that in the argumentation in Romans 4, he is pointing to Abraham at a particular point in time, and he's saying Abraham's circumcision represented this. There were all sorts of Jews for whom their circumcision did not mean that. And so to make his illustrative of everyone is one of the major problems in Calvin's application at that point. And so I think, honestly, when you look at Romans 4:11 and Colossians 2, demonstrate that neither one of them requires the Presbyterian reading. You combine that with the household baptisms that again, Acts, I think, gives a very clear indication that the pattern is belief, repentance, then baptism, and that to take one with Lydia and turn all the rest of them on their heads at that point doesn't work. And then when you follow that up with Hebrews chapter 8, and if you've looked at the articles that I've written on that subject, the nature of the new covenant, which is the covenant in his blood, and a consistent Reformed understanding of the atonement, I think us Reformed Baptists have a pretty good leg to stand on. But that's why we're doing the debate, and that's why I've mentioned to folks, hey, if you want to hear everything that Bill Shishko